Greetings and welcome to another exciting episode of The Accidental Farmer, a podcast that gives you the real dirt on farming. Today, it is a privilege and honor to have with me Dennis Andaye, the founder of Farmers Markets. Now, markets are critical to farmers and to producers. Many times I get calls from farmers and other producers asking me, where can I sell my tomatoes? Where can I sell my onions? I even got a call once from a friend who told me, I've got 57 tons of onions. I've harvested them. Where can I sell them? A lesson I learned very early in the farming game is that do not grow anything that you have not already found a market for. The intermediaries, which is a polite term for the brokers, will never buy something that they have not already sold. But yet we always overlook this fact. We grow things that we think are easy or things that we are told have got a high market value without really thinking, when the produce is ready, where will I sell it? But today I've got Dennis from Farmers Markets, who's going to tell us a little bit about his journey, about how he started, his motivation behind starting Farmers Markets, how they help small farmers. But before I do that, I'm going to read an intro of his profile. Dennis Andaye is an entrepreneur, journalist, and photographer, passionate about sustainable agriculture and farmers markets in Kenya. Since 2010, he has been a key figure behind successful markets such as the Organic Farmers Market, RightEats Food Market, the Weekend Market, Makers Market Kenya, and Farmers Market Nairobi. Through his journalistic and photography skills, Dennis has shared the stories of farmers and food producers across Kenya, Africa, and beyond. He also founded Maker Spotlight, a platform showcasing the innovation of healthier food entrepreneurs. The passion for food stems from a personal battle with an autoimmune disease, shaping his dedication to community-driven markets and better food choices. As Kenya's representative for the Mediterranean African Market Initiative, MAMi, Dennis continues to advocate for sustainable food systems. In this episode, we will explore the triumphs and challenges of farming through Dennis and his journey, connecting audiences to the real stories behind the food we eat.
Thank you, Joe.
Dennis, welcome to the show. How are you?
Very well. Very well. Nice to be here.
Good. It's always a pleasure.
Yes.
We met very recently
Correct.
at the opening of a new farmers market
at Roslyn.
At Roslyn.
Yes.
And it was a resounding success.
Great.
Yeah. But before we get into that, I want, you're a foodie, to use the terms that are used by the generation of today.
Yes.
You love food and you have a whole history of promoting small-scale farmers and trying to get food that we can trace.
Yes.
Tell me one of the best food experiences you've had in your journey.
Good. Quickly, I think this one I have to take it way back. You have to go with me probably when I was maybe 8 years, 9 years, if I'm to remember that. And this one I can plug it to my mom, and it's not about what she prepared. It's about, growing up between the ages of, I think, early 90s, thereabout. We didn't come from a well-off family, so food was always a problem.
Yes.
And one day, we had to pack, our parents had to pack, from Nairobi, and we went to the village. Okay. And that for me was the best experience, Okay. We went to the village. I went to a nearby a government primary school. We would walk, if you're at home and you'd scream, somebody in school would hear.
Okay.
But what really I was so happy about is the food, my grandfather. So this is our ancestral land, and my grandfather was there then. So in the 6 acres, I just remember walking into the farm and seeing all the fruit trees, seeing all the lush, the bush, and it was like a food forest for me. I remember we went, but I didn't go straight to the homestead. I disappeared in the farm with my brother, and we went, guavas. It was like Christmas, and there was a season of like lots of goodness. But then beyond that, every time we'd go to school and come back, I just remember the table, this long table, that had the diversity. And to date, I don't think I've still experienced the same. It was like there was either like boiled sweet potato, roast sweet potato, there was spring chicken, there was like different leafy greens, like including even things like sweet potato, the leaves, there's a special dish there. There was also cassava and, the traditional veggies. So this long table, there was this amazing choice that I never saw when we were in the city. And you just pick whatever you want, and it was straight from the farm. And I think probably the only foreign thing on that table was either the plate or the cooking oil. Wow. But everything else was just from the farm. And I still have those memories of that food. And there's something I've documented about that with my mom and food.
Yes.
That memory is so special for me because, after about 5-6 years, we came back to the city, and I kept asking myself, why did we leave the village? Because that experience on the table there was never the same. On this other end, we had always a challenge of getting enough.
Yes.
But on that other side, there's always plenty.
You had an abundance.
Yeah, and diversity. And, so I still have those memories of my mom preparing all these different foods. And I think, I don't know, probably I was the only one who was just super excited about it. But that memory, when I was probably 8, 9, still lingers to date.
Yeah. So as an urbanite moving from the city to the rural areas, the experience that you drew out of it, the positive thing that you got out of it was this fresh, organic,
it's fresh,
natural food.
Yes, it's fresh, natural, variety.
Wow.
Literally, I would say the 6 acres we had was a food forest.
Wow.
Wow. You can get berries, you can get all these like pawpaws, avocados. Yes. And you get like a different piece of something else, The what do you call it? Is it a granary or whatever? Where there was always like food in plenty, be it pumpkins, be it dried maize in the cob. Like it was all just amazing. It's something that you can never even put value to it. It's just mind blowing.
So you've done many things. You're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You're a photojournalist. And now you've been running the farmers markets for a number of years now.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get into this farmers markets and trying to promote small farmers and having sustainable food?
Correct. So I remember in my high school, when you kind of get this question of, what do you want to be? What do you want to be?
Yeah.
I kept saying a couple of things. I just want to be a writer or a storyteller and a business person.
Okay.
That was very clear, and I kept saying it over and over.
Not a lawyer and a doctor.
No, none of that. None of that.
The rest of many of us were compelled to choose.
Never at all. But I had never found that space. Like I knew what I wanted, but I'd never like really gotten it, And I remember in my entire high school, I used to write a lot. I would just write, I would write all around. And I remember after I finished my high school, I used to like, what was this called? It used to be a Nation newspaper. Every Saturday it used to be done by Oyunga Pala.
Yes.
Man's Talk.
Yes.
I loved the creativity that he had.
Okay.
And I used to read that a lot. And I remember before high school, I remember going to Nation Center and said, guys, I just want to be a writer. Who can I talk to? And I can't remember the name of the lady. She just came and told me, you just find your voice. Yeah. Something will happen. And I remember reaching out to Oyunga, and he told me, come with some of your writing. And I showed him within 5 minutes, it was done. He was like, it's not easy, but you can do it. Okay. So I would challenge you to keep writing.
Yes.
And you'll find your voice.
That's right. Yeah.
And after many, many years, I remember he wrote to me. He said, I think you found your voice in the food space. That was so special for me. But then now, how did I get into that space of, I still practice the writing and the photography and things like that, but food is what is out there for me.
Yes.
So I went and did my journalism, and then later went and did my film and photography.
Okay. As a profession.
As a profession, because I wanted to establish a business in that space, but not just, I wanted to understand the industry.
Yes.
So after setting the business and then after graduating from school, that is now in the year 2010, there's a book I was working on in parts of Asia. It's called The Art of Living.
Okay.
I was translating the book. I had gotten a deal to translate the book.
Okay.
So I packed my bags. I went to Asia. I went to India. I went to Burma, Nepal. And when I came back, I remember, I think a day or so, I was with my girlfriend then, and then a friend of mine, like in college. So we met in town, and I said, guys, why don't we buy some food? We're going to make at my place.
Yeah.
So we bought chicken in one of the major outlets. I'm not going to mention the name in downtown, and it was 3 thighs. One for me, one for her, one for my friend.
Yeah.
So we went to my place. I cooked the food. We all ate. Everyone was happy. And within an hour or so, I just reacted to the food. And I would say that's the last time I had good health.
Really?
Yes. So, and I didn't sleep the whole night.
Yeah.
And I was just waiting for the morning so that I could go see a doctor. I went to a local dispensary. They couldn't establish. They gave me some medication and nothing was happening. Now I started checking myself to the hospital to figure out what is this. And one day after the other, 1 week, week 2, week 3, week 4, and I'm just deteriorating. And my body was, apart from the tummy aches and all that, there was a lot of muscle pain and things like that. And it took about 7 months. And by then I was on a wheelchair. I could not walk. I could not lift my hand. I could not button my shirt. I could not swallow even my own saliva. And everything I tried eating, I had to wash it down with water, And even at night, I needed somebody to turn me, I remember a couple of times I would check myself in the hospital and I would figure out where is the admission, where are the beds, and I would go straight to the bed and I would say, I'm not leaving until you guys tell me what's killing me, And
you can attribute it directly to that chicken you ate? Did the other 2 people you're with suffer any consequences?
Nothing. And I'm going to mention why that is what led to.
Yes.
So at that point, I think I was dying. I was dying slowly.
Okay.
I had lost so much weight. I was about, you can imagine I'm a skinny person, but I was about 38 kilos. So ideally I was barely bones.
Emaciated,
And I don't want to say it's divine or whatever. I remember switching from one hospital to the other because this hospital could not establish what it was, but they were having, when I remember, they were getting some ideas, but they could not figure what it was. They were saying it's a Still's disease, but they could not. And I remember switching from one hospital to the other because of my brother-in-law, who had a friend who's a doctor in the other hospital, and said, now, because we've tried so much, why don't we go try this guy? And this guy was just a general GP. And he looked at me, and my voice was wobbling. I could not speak. And he said, I think I know what he's suffering from. And it's not something that I have studied, but I just read in a book.
Okay.
So I would recommend he gets an admission, no movement. And he said it could be having a form of myositis.
Okay.
So I remember telling my brother, you go Google, bring the information. And we discovered it's a very rare autoimmune disease. People die within record time. They say probably 1 in a million people could be having it. I remember when I met my doctor, I said, this is probably the 2nd case
he has encountered.
Yeah, here in Kenya. So, of course, now you put on high doses of steroids, immune suppressant. And then, of course, with the medication, they also lead to other complications. I developed induced diabetes because of the steroids. But for me, the discovery of what was killing me was the moment, because that is like new life. And I was like, now at least I know what it is. So how am I going to deal with it? And at that point is when, through a lot of reading and research, there was a connection between managing the condition through food, just eating good, safe, organic, healthy foods. And I asked myself, what is organic? At that point, as an adult who's been to school, and I could not comprehend what it was. So because I was on liquid medicated diet for a very long time, I kept saying to myself, when the time comes for me to eat, I want to eat organic.
Okay.
So I remember my girlfriend then going to the market, and she came back and said, I couldn't tell what it was. Everyone who was selling was saying, this ones were brought by a lorry from I don't know where. This came from I don't know who. This one came from Naivasha. And she came back without anything. So at that point, I decided I want to be a farmer. I want to produce food that I know, and that's what I want to eat. So I started producing my own, a lot of leafy greens, just producing food in the most natural way.
And you were doing this where you lived?
Where
just
I
like
lived.
A kitchen garden?
So actually, I lived in a place that was having probably half an acre.
Okay.
So, like these townhouses, but
Yes.
with a piece of land.
Yeah.
So, which was a blessing,
Yes.
So I ended up keeping my own animals.
Yeah.
I would get my own eggs from the farm. A lot of things from the farm, lots of leafy greens. And as soon as I started eating this food, but of course being disciplined with the medication, there was this feeling inside that I'm feeling really nice.
Yes.
I looked very frail. I looked weak. But for me, internally, it was like I was being born again, like inside out. And I remember my hair fell off, the whole of it. My skin started peeling until when the soles
of your
feet completely peeled is when I started walking. It was a rebirth for me.
Wow.
I had to relearn a lot of things.
Yeah.
I had to even relearn how to speak. I had to see a speech therapist.
You had to relearn normal activities, things
normal
we take for granted.
Yes. I couldn't speak. It was always a problem. So I had to go through exercises to build my thoracic muscles and all that. And people didn't see, but I saw. People didn't see my recovery, but I was seeing my recovery because I was feeling I'm not dying. I'm coming from the death.
Yes.
And coming back, you know? And that's how I started believing in this. But then the produce was a lot.
Yes.
And I started opening up my place on weekends for people to come and get this food.
The surplus or the excess, yes.
And I remember kids would just come and jump in the farm. They pick things, neighbors, family. And I remember there was a lady who was like, but is there a way you could set up something where people come and
purchase?
And purchase.
Yes.
So that was the first moment, you know? And I said, I want to get into this movement where, we want to get food out there, good food.
Yes.
I was such a strong believer,
Yes.
And I remember, now taking it fast forward, the whole of 2010, I couldn't walk. 2012 was a lot of challenges. And towards the end of 2012 is when now the idea of the market started like taking root,
Yes.
And I remember, setting up, being at, what do you call this restaurant? Talisman.
Yes. That's in Karen. Yes.
So I remember a group of farmers and myself would just put tables there, and for about 9 to 1, and people would come, the people that would come to the restaurant, but they would still not, and they never understood what we were doing.
Yes.
And that's the moment when I started hearing things like, everything that grows in Kenya is organic.
Yeah.
Everything that grows in Kenya is safe, which is not the case.
No. Far from it. Yeah.
Far from it.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like getting into that space of trying to tell people that's not the case.
Yes.
It's not the case. Yeah. Even with the launch of the new market, which I'll mention, I saw someone who made a comment and said, everything that grows in Kenya is organic.
Yeah.
This time and age,
yes.
which is not the case. So, but it was a long, slow, sometimes demoralizing journey.
Yes.
Because good food is in the market, but no one's coming to buy,
That's right.
And I remember there's a day I had a total of 21 farmers and only 6 shoppers showed up. And I just remember farmers putting their food back in the crates and in the gunias and whatever bag and going back home with that food. That was the longest journey for me, going back home.
Yes.
And that's the moment when I said something has to change.
Yes.
And I jumped online. I started writing about food.
Yes.
I started talking about food. I started talking about the market.
Yeah.
And I started seeing numbers. Even the people that would walk into the restaurant was on the left, the market was on the right. No one went on the market side.
No.
They all went to the restaurant and hundreds of people to eat, drink, but no one came to the market to buy any ingredient. So at that point, I started talking about this and, started putting like a lot of consistency, talking about food. And I remember our numbers going up. I started seeing people from Lavington, Kilimani, coming all the way with baskets.
And this was still at Talisman?
This was still at Talisman.
Yes.
And they would come with the baskets and I would see them loading the produce.
Yeah.
And I remember at some point we were there's a day we counted and we had 75 shoppers.
Wow.
That was heaven for me.
Yes.
And the interest started building. So 2014, 2015, it just started going and going, And then of course we moved to padiums where it took off.
Yes.
And then Padiums, I don't know what happened. The property we could no longer access.
It changed
Went
hands,
to Marula.
did it? Maybe.
Went to Marula Mercantile, a small market, but nice for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And then went to KSPCA.
Yeah.
And then after KSPCA, went back to Marula. But COVID.
Mm-hmm.
After COVID, I closed the market for about 3 months.
Yes.
And when I opened the market, it was just, it just
now
took
everybody was looking, there was the whole thing about vitamin C.
Correct. Yes.
Eating non-synthetic food.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, still, it provided like a space where people could come out,
Yes.
So at that point, it just took off. But before then, 2016, 2017, 2016, I was the first person who set up a farmers market at the hub.
Oh.
I used to do it every Sunday.
Yes.
I'm probably the first person who set up another farmers market at Sarit Center, Westgate, Two Rivers Mall.
Okay.
And I've done pop-ups in bars, in restaurants, streets, literally everywhere.
Yeah.
So that was my health, So I got into the markets because of a selfish reason, my personal health.
Yeah.
But later on, I came out of that. I discovered good food should not just be for sick people.
Yeah.
Good food should be for everybody.
Everybody. Yeah. Yes.
Healthy people need to get healthy food for them to continue being healthy.
Yeah.
And one big lesson is nothing can compare to this human health.
Yes.
If this human health is not okay, no amount of success out there is success.
Yes.
No amount, So, and that's how I believed in this. And I still believe in this even way deeper. So that is my connection with food.
Yes,
and
how the farmers market came about.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very inspiring that you started this thing as a need.
Yes.
You realized that getting good, clean, healthy food was a challenge.
Correct.
And so you took it upon yourself to grow it.
Yes. And even now, getting good food is still a challenge.
Yes.
It's still a challenge.
Yeah. I think the big problem I find, or what we see in farming now, is this word that is bandied around called traceability.
Traceability, yes.
Yeah, we need to know where the food comes from.
Correct.
I mean, farmers markets, we call them farmers markets, but markets have been with us from
hundreds of years.
For hundreds of years, right? We have markets. Even now we have markets at City Park, Marigiti, all these places. What the big challenge I find is that a lot of these markets, we don't know where the produce comes from.
100%.
Yeah. With your farmers markets, is there an element of traceability?
So that is the core.
Yes.
That is the anchor of what we do.
Yeah.
So I'll give a couple of examples. So every day we get a lot of inquiries. Every day.
From who?
From different people that want to come to sell to the farmers market.
So from different producers.
Yes, and even by the time we're done with this interview, I'm sure there will be a couple of inquiries when I go online, either on my phone or on socials or on email or a text or a WhatsApp.
Yes.
And it's a very interesting thing. The first thing that I always do is, oh, great, thanks for getting in touch or whatever. Where's your farm? Do you produce this? And some will not respond and completely go.
Yes.
Some will respond and say, I have a farm, XYZ place.
Yes.
Some will respond and say they have a farm.
Yes.
But they're not genuine.
Yes.
So what I tend to do is I would want to schedule a farm visit.
Okay.
I want to come see what you're doing.
As a verification exercise.
As a verification.
Yeah.
And I would say more than 90-something% will never get back to me.
Yeah. The intermediaries, the people in between.
They will never get back to
me.
And that says a lot.
Yeah.
And I can count the genuine people that have once told me, no, I'm not a farmer. I just buy, I aggregate, I want to come and sell. Very few.
Yeah.
Very few. But there's a lot of that just lie,
Yes.
Because one of the things that I want to know is, where's your production? Where's your farm? Even if it's way far and I can't make it, I want you to go to your farm. Let's do a video call.
Yeah.
Let's do a video call.
See.
Show me these things that you're telling me.
Yes.
You'll know if someone is lying or not, And then even if we work together, I will make a point at some point to go to the farm.
To determine whether that is the farm.
And there are also other things that you can tell, with small producers, and I'll also explain another challenge of actual producers being in a market and also corrupting the process.
Okay.
If you're not very careful.
Yeah.
You can recruit a farmer, So they've got all these amazing things, and they start selling at the market, and they build a client base. And maybe they're known for their nice bunch of spinach, their good bunch of carrot.
Yeah.
And then after 2 months, that item is no longer in the farm, but they're sourcing and they're not telling you because they don't want to lose that customer who buys from them directly.
Yeah.
So if you're not having, you cannot just trust. You've got to go and check because no one wants to leave that money. This is the reality in that space.
Well, it's the pressure being a farmer.
Correct. Yeah. And a few farmers will tell you, oh, by the way, next week I'll not come because my farm, it's like I've cleared everything.
Yeah.
I might resume in 1 month or 2 months. But those are the very disciplined, genuine farmers. We've got farmers that started on a good note, but in the process, because they want to maintain the space, they want to keep selling, they will go to the markets and buy, which is such a shame and sad, So as big brother, as someone who is in charge and has the responsibility, I have to take that responsibility of checking, sending food experts, sending food and hygiene, handling people to go to the farms and give me a report of what did they see. Or the broccoli that farmer brought last week.
Yes.
Did it come from that farm? So we always check. And I do a lot of pseudo shopping, using other people to go and see and figure out, what is what and what.
Yeah.
But again, traceability is very important because I'll tell you, and I don't know why, if you know how the food was produced, there's just a special way in how it resonates and tastes. I don't know if I know you produced these tomatoes, and I know Joe produced them in their farm.
Yes.
There's a way when I'm eating, like when I eat some of your products, I eat with a lot of love.
Yes.
Because I know whoever did it and how.
Yes.
The same tomato, if I bought it in a supermarket or in an open market, I will not enjoy it the same way.
Yes.
I don't know what that magic has always been. I've never understood.
Yeah.
So traceability is key because one, that's how we connect with our food. That's how we get to know how it was produced.
Yes.
And we cannot leave this responsibility and trust to the farmers. No. We have to take that responsibility as consumers.
Yes.
And I think as consumers, we can change. The food space in this country. If every consumer, if every of the 50-something million would go to the supermarket and ask, where did this cucumber come from? How was it grown?
Yes.
If there's no answer, don't pick it. Those supermarket, those retailers, the mamamboga, the kiosk, will take the fight back to the farm and say, you've got to share the story. I want to know. Is it going to be a QR code? Is it something people put and they get to see where it's coming from?
Yes.
So this responsibility of the food that we eat, if there was a way, it should no longer even be on authorities or institutions. It should be on the people that put it through their lips. They need to take that fight. I want to know more about my milk. I want to know more about my tomatoes. I want to know more about my cucumber, my broccoli. How did you do it? If you did not do it the right way, sorry, we're not taking it. It has to be a movement from the population back, not the other way.
Yeah. Okay, and so how many farmers markets do you have you been responsible for setting up?
So I would say about five. Some as pop-ups.
Okay.
But the regular ones, so we've got the current one, Kilimani, there's a market. We've done markets like at Bamba Restaurant as pop-ups,
Okay.
We're opening another one at Mohinda's as a pop-up.
Okay.
We're opening another one that's coming first Saturday of March at Waldorf School in Karen Nandi Road.
Okay.
But this is specifically, the parents have just been awakened and they say, listen, we want something for us.
Okay.
Over 700 parents that want just their own, selfish but great.
But when you say their own, that means that the market is not open to outsiders?
No, it's open to the outsiders, but majority of the shoppers, it's like all the parents want to come and buy there.
Okay, but it's open
Anyone.
to producers.
Producers
can
and
apply.
consumers. Yes.
Okay, so that's
anyone
good.
can go in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I've been.
I know you've been a vendor.
I've been a vendor at your markets, and we really appreciate it. Some of the advantages we find, as a producer, is that we come into direct contact with the consumer.
Correct.
And I think that's very critical. Yeah. We also sell our stuff, our produce, through other methods like retailers. Correct. And the challenge you have with that is that, yes, they're very good in terms of the volumes they take, but sometimes they reject your produce. And especially for us who are in the organic and regenerative space, sometimes our food looks ugly. Yeah. It has a few blemishes because it's natural. And many consumers might try, the retailers tell us the consumers shy away from that. Correct. But when you're at a farmer's market and you're in direct communication and people understand that this is how real food or natural food looks, it's much more gratifying. And, we have opportunities for them to taste the food. Yes. The challenge we do have, though, with farmers markets, and two challenges I can see is, one, you can never estimate how many shoppers are going to show up. Very true. Very true. That's the one thing. So we don't know how much produce to carry. Some of the food we carry is highly perishable. Yes. So what happens? As you rightfully said earlier, that if you have 21 vendors and 6 shoppers, what do you do with the rest of the thing? So what are you doing around that in terms of the wastage? Yeah. And how do you then encourage us to keep coming? Correct. Yeah. I mean, this is let me call it the industry of fresh. Yes. It's a very delicate industry. Yeah. And the moment food is ready, it does not wait. It needs to go. Yes. It needs to go. It needs to go to the hands of the consumers. Yes. So there's always the race against or race towards dealing with freshness. Yeah. The moment it's harvested, it starts to depreciate right away. Yes. It starts to change immediately. Yeah. One of the things I keep saying, farmers have to wear a number of hats. Yes. They've got to be great salespeople. They've got to figure out where am I going to sell this? They've got to produce with the consumer in mind. Yes. Not because my neighbor is producing. No. Not because this is the thing in the season, And there are a couple of realities here. Why is it that fresh farm produce, these prices are never great? Yeah. There's the aspect of seasonality. Everyone has it. Yeah. So the dynamics of supply and demand, plays a part. Yeah. One thing, for instance, like your farm does, which is very different from most farms, is the value addition aspect. Yes. I'm imagining if you are not doing some things with the tomatoes. Yeah, or the gooseberries. Gooseberries. Like that, the perishability. So passion, there's the chilies and all that. Bottled, nicely, well packaged. Yeah. This thing can be sold anytime. Yes. A lot of farmers do not know anything on value addition. Oh, okay. Zero. If they don't sell, either the produce will go to the compost. No, they will eat part of it. Yeah. Some will go to the compost. Some will be given to the animals. Yes. Sometimes some will be left at the market. Yes. So you can imagine this bunch that has been thrown or gone to compost. No one produces to take things to compost. That's right. No one produces to food that was for human to go for animals So that is very clear. Yeah. But now, with that in mind, the biggest problem, I would say, farmers have to manage things at the farm level all the way to the market level. Right. They've got to treat this as a business, whether they like it or not. Yeah. They must, Okay. And again, there's also this reality, which I think we will never come out of it. Farmers are the only people in the production world, let me use that word, that will never set prices for their goods. It's wholly determined by the market. By the market,
or the consumer, or the retailer. Yeah. You'll go there, in mind, I'm going to sell it at 90 shillings a kilo. Yeah. The guy tells you, I'm going to take it with 20 bob. Yeah. And if you refuse, they tell you, there's a guy even behind you who's doing it at 15 shillings. Yeah. Yeah. You will never. But somebody else who produces shoes, books, clothes, they put a price.
But it's always very interesting. Yeah, the market, the price of produce fluctuates. Correct. Wildly. For the farmer, the dream for any farmer is to sell their produce at the farm gate.
That's right.
And then again, to use today's term, zero emissions.
Yes.
People come pick
Yes.
what they want from the farm gate.
Yes.
But I'll tell you an experience that I underwent. There's a time we grew onions, and with onions, the prices really fluctuate. Onions and tomatoes are two of the most grown, or the most the crops that have the biggest demand in Kenya.
Yes.
And when we were growing these onions and we're getting ready to sell them, we had people calling, many intermediaries. Do you have onions? Do you have onions? And I think we had produced 2 or 2.5 tons, and we were very excited. And they were asking us to name our price, and we would name it. They said, we'll even get you people to harvest. So what we did was we sold part of the produce, saying we will hedge, we will hold some of this for better prices, and we held them only for a week. So they took half the produce, but a week later nobody called. So we called some of those brokers. They wouldn't even take our calls. Then mercifully, one called, took our call and said, well, I will take it at half the price I bought it at, and you'll have to bring it to me in the city. And we're in Athi River. And we wondered what happened. And the price had fallen by half overnight. And these are the challenges we have in farming.
It's a very interesting industry. But when you flip it, and when you flip it, I think there's a couple of things that could be done, either at policy level, but to be implemented, because the same produce that you sold or someone bought it at half price, you go to these retail spaces, look at the prices.
The price is pretty constant, quite steady.
And they're selling it now 4 or 5 times what they bought it from you.
That's right.
I've had cases where a farmer, the lettuce was bought at 7 shillings, but at a retail store is 70 shillings.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, could it be like at a policy level where there's some regulations where the supermarkets and these stockists will never, there has to be a model,
that is favorable to everybody, is what you're suggesting.
In the sense that there's no way, you can buy, I don't know what that could be.
The markup or the margin is quite wide.
Because it's very unfair,
It is,
but this, people will say business is business. I want to make mine, whoever makes theirs and things like that. But it's most farmers never even recoup. They don't even break even.
No, they don't.
They don't even break even.
That is the
and I've been a farmer, I had a dairy farm. And from day one, in fact, within 9 months, I'd closed the business and sold everything. But when I did my analysis, the moment it was a loss-making venture right from the idea stage, right from the idea stage, I was losing money. By the time I was having the cows, I was losing 4 shillings per liter of milk. And I did that for 9 months. And I just couldn't keep it. The same milk, I would take it to the dairy. You see, it's a lot. You can no longer just sell to your neighbors. You need someone to take it. You take it to a dairy, you closes the dairy collection point. And I remember the same milk that I'm selling to them, they're buying at 24 shillings then. There's someone walking in buying it at 56, 57 shillings. And I'm seeing it being bought. And already they've extracted the cream, they've done whatever. And I'm like, really, And I looked at it in so many ways. How can I make this profitable? I just couldn't see. I really could not see, and I had to close it, So it's farming is, sometimes I call it, it's supposed to be a business, but I find it's sort of like in a noble cause of feeding people, giving people food for free,
Maybe we'll get our reward in the afterlife.
Maybe.
Now,
yes.
You've been to many farms. What is one farm? Which are some of the farms you've seen that have been model farms or have been exemplary in the way they do their things?
So,
preferably a small to medium-sized farm. Yeah.
So, there's one farm that I still admire today.
Yes.
It's no longer here.
Okay.
Okay. So, and this I would look at it in a different way. To date, it still stands out as one of the farms that is just admirable, or was admirable then. So it was a couple, a Kenyan who had married an American lady. The guy was a farmer here in Kenya doing organic. And then I think he went to the US, met this lady, they got married, but he still was involved in some farming.
Yes.
But then they relocated, they came to Kenya. And I remember the guy, his name is Anthony and Andaye. I remember them very well. They would come to the market with their son and they would just come and look around and they would talk to me. I want to be part of this. How can I be part of this? And da-da-da-da-da. And they were doing a lot of research. That's what I discovered. And so they got a farm in Juja, but then they were practicing at Kyiv. the Kenya Institute of Organic Farming, they'd list a portion on the side.
Yes.
And this guy looked at the market and he saw things that are not there out of maybe 30-something farmers. And this guy he got his good seeds and he grew things totally different from what was in the market. You can imagine I've been working with some farmers from late 2002 to around 2017. But this guy joins at that point and becomes a hit.
Yeah.
So the farm was very small. He went for beef tomatoes, did the French beans, the purple and yellow. He did a lot of Swiss chard. He did a butterhead lettuce.
Mm-hmm.
I remember he did things like wild rocket and sweet rocket and whatever. And he got these beautiful crates. And he's like, give me 2 tables. And even the way he would bring, his lettuces, in a cooler box covered with a wet cloth.
Yeah.
And Anthony, they used to be called Sunrise Organics.
Yes.
And I gave them the next available space.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, they became a hit. And this is what happened. Anthony would get late sometimes either because of, setup or whatever from the farm.
Yeah.
And people would arrive at the market and say, where's Anthony? Where's Anthony? Okay, I'm going to hang around until Anthony comes. And guys would just move around with their baskets.
And what happened to that farm?
So what happened again, the wife got another bigger job in the farming space in the US.
And
went and then Anthony continued. And then Anthony was needed. He's still doing a lot of farming there. So they moved. So that is one classic example of a good farm, of a farmer who approached it
from a very different lens.
And he stood out.
Yeah.
And by the way, by 1, Anthony was done when other farmers had to stick at the market until 5.
Yeah.
Another example, I've got a guy called Kamano, who's also very, very dedicated, but is slightly elderly. Again, he's known for specific things. I call him broccoli man, broccoli, cauliflower, and the way he's worked his soil, he's got chickens, he's got pigs, he's got... And
so quite regenerative, right?
Yes, regenerative.
Yeah.
But again, you see the produce at the market,
quality,
just blown, So him is also another good example. Of course, you guys do fantastic. I love you guys with your value addition.
Thank you.
That for me blows me,
Thank you.
You sometimes I even munch on your sun-dried tomatoes,
Yes.
Like it's sort of like a snack for me,
Yes.
The chili is like on another level.
Yeah.
I just last week I got passion
fruit jam.
Oh my goodness, that's another. Your what do you call the gooseberry jams?
Yeah.
It's so addictive.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just find myself dipping my hand.
Thank you.
So what I tend to do when this is a funny one, I tend to put them like somewhere up because I know kids when they come,
out of reach,
they will disappear with it,
Yes.
So it's always like that jar one can consume it in a minute.
Yeah.
So I mean, like it's something that I say farmers have to think beyond just production.
We have to be innovative.
100%.
It's not just about producing.
And think of how to deal with your food waste.
That's right.
That is extremely important. At the market level, I encourage farmers to always interact and engage with consumers.
Yes.
Get their contacts.
Yes.
Tell them, I prefer you pre-ordering.
Yes.
So that by the time I'm coming to the farmer's market, 70, 60% is gone.
So build your consumer base is what I'm
Build your consumer base.
Yeah.
Put them in a community, not like necessarily where you put all their contacts.
Yeah.
A place where you can say, this week, this is what's available.
You can engage with them.
Yes.
And there are tools for that now.
Yeah.
With technology.
This is what's available.
Yeah.
You can order by Friday, 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Come pick it at the market.
Good.
And then the 30% is for the passerbys, the by the way.
Yes.
So if I can go to a market and 60, 70% is gone, it's amazing,
Yeah.
Every time when your team is at the market, I always tell them, I'll need.
Yes, you do.
I'll need the jam.
The organic farmer has been a good, the farmers market has been a good outlet for us. You've been very supportive.
So I always, I pre-order most of my things because
it makes it easier.
I rarely even I don't go to supermarkets.
Yeah.
I order most of my things at the farmer's market.
Yeah.
And I always know, Alphonse, I'll need your sourdough bread. I know I'll get at Joel's farm, I'll get this.
Yeah.
I know so-and-so will give me this, so-and-so will give me. By the time I get to the market, already my items are sorted, And then there's always a room to try new things, Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So I have a couple more questions before we conclude.
Yes.
One, can organic or healthy food be affordable?
Can organic or healthy food be affordable?
Yeah.
Yes, it can be affordable.
And you think the farmers market is a way, because it eliminates the middleman, who
100%.
can make up to 70, 80% of the markup, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's very possible.
Yeah.
And one of the things is, again, with the farmers market, as a seller, you have your money directly.
Exactly. You get paid immediately.
There's no, it's going to take 2 weeks, it's going to take this, whatever. No. So 100% organic can make money.
Okay.
Yes.
It can be affordable and it benefits everybody.
For instance, let me give you an example. A bunch of vegetable at the farmers market is 50 shillings, but it's about 500 to 700 grams.
Yes.
When you compare what you pay in the supermarkets for 30 shillings is way less.
Yes, that's right.
Okay? Yeah. And you're getting it fresh, you're getting it from the farmer, and you're actually supporting that farmer directly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this new initiative, tell us a bit about it.
Good.
Yeah.
So
about 1 minute.
We've got the MAMi Project Kenya, which is Mediterranean Africa Market Initiative. Mm-hmm. This is a project that started as a dream in October of 2023. Yeah. And for the whole of 2024, we've been building on it. Mm-hmm. And now it's come alive. The baby has been born, which was last week.
Yes.
And it's a platform that we're strictly working with farmers, producers.
Okay.
And we in this market, we're not doing other things like arts, thrift, it's
food.
Farmers. Yeah. Because I want anyone who walks in there, that money that's supposed to go to the farmer goes to the farmer.
Okay.
So this is a model that is a global model, but we've tailored it and localized it. Yeah. It's happening in Egypt. It will be happening in Lebanon, in Tunisia, in Albania. But Kenya, and the reception was very amazing. Mm-hmm. The shoppers showed up with baskets and bought from the farmers. I had farmers that sold out, and there are farmers that made money. Yeah. So right now, we're just going to keep the momentum, and it's been in partnership with the Italian Foreign Affairs Ministry and the Italian Corporation and World Farmers Market Coalition, which is an umbrella that brings together people that run farmers markets globally. Yeah. We've got an implementing partner called CHEM that is helping us execute this. Yeah. And it's just been amazing, So
do you hope to expand it to other parts of the country or other parts of the city? We
hope to expand this model to other parts. Kisumu is like in focus, you know. Yeah. We want to see if we can do something else also in Nairobi. Okay. So, in the long run, our tagline, we've got two of them. Yeah. One is touches the producers. Yeah. The one who grew or grows it is the one who sells it. Oh, and then good, our model is we bring farms to the neighborhoods. Okay. Like right now, we brought the farms to Roslyn neighborhoods. Anyone who's around there, walk, cycle, use an Uber, come meet the real guys.
And this farmers market, the one you're talking about, happens every Saturday?
Every Saturday throughout the year.
At Roslyn
Luxury Square Mall. From 9 to 4 p.m.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And it's a food market. People come, interact.
It's a food market. All you need to do to enter the market, there is a fee, by the way.
Okay.
And the fee is you've got to have a shopping bag.
That's it.
Yes. Okay. If you have a shopping bag,
then you can get
fantastic.
Fantastic.
Lord the goodness.
Dennis, thank you so much. You've given us a lot of insights on farmers market.
Thank you.
You're telling us that food is medicine.
Food is medicine.
Told us a very personal, your very personal journey.
Yes.
About how an affliction with some condition made you realize the importance of getting good, clean, and healthy food.
Correct.
And we commend you on the work you're doing on reviving farmers markets.
Yes.
In a way where the farmers can benefit. We want a situation where everybody wins.
Correct.
As we close, what is the one piece of advice you would give to small-scale farmers to enhance their ability to sell produce?
I would say to smallholder farmers, you've got to learn the art of selling. Okay. You've got to be a storyteller. Tell people what you're doing at the farm, and the way they reward you is by buying. Yeah. Tell the story.
We look forward to seeing many more farmers markets around the city and around the country.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you very much,
Thank you, and thanks for being a supporter of the farmers market by being there and selling. Yeah. So that makes us happy. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So there you go. We've just done another very interesting episode on on farming. And this time you get the real dirt on markets. We've been very privileged to have Dennis Andaye. And we've enjoyed what he's told us about farmers markets and his inspirational journey. So stay tuned for our next episode of The Accidental Farmer, where you get the real dirt on farming.